Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching this in the world. I hope you guys are doing okay. So for this video, I want to give you guys a quick disclaimer. It's not usually a kind of video that I do on this channel, although it is surrounding games. There are going to be a lot of things discussed in here that you might not attribute to gaming. The reason that I'm talking about is that the individuals in this video are involved in the gaming industry. One in particular that has been at the forefront of this whole Gamergate 2 shit that's going on. And I think it's very interesting to listen to some of their talking points. Now, this is a live stream that went on for about 2 hours. I've clipped down some of it, although I did not play all of it. I think you should go and watch the entire thing if you want to. I don't want to take all of their footage, but I do want to point out some things here that are made regarding the points that are made by these two individuals, because again, these are the kinds of people that work on the games that come from the West, and I think they have a lot of bad takes. In this interview, they're both going to be quite insulting to people that stand against them. They're going to make a lot of ad hominem attacks. I tried my best to not go down that road, although they made it extremely difficult, but I think I was successful in my task. But you guys let me know what you think, and without further ado, we will get into it.
First of all, I want to dig into how have things been over the past couple of months, because I think we have seen, we've covered this on our show ad nauseum over the past 10 years of like the growth and the continual growth of the nefarious side of the gaming community. And it's reared its ugly head again with Gamergate 2 around all the stuff that we talked about with Sweet Baby, the idea around consultancy, the ideas around diversity, inclusion, and equity work. All of the things have become the big dragon's dogma monster that is around the corner that we can't get away from.
If you're a woman or a person of color or a queer person and you're loud and proud and unapologetic, I think you have at some point in your life received even a modicum of what I'm receiving. And my parents, bless their hearts, they did not look at me with rose-colored glasses. They raised me to be pretty thick-skinned and pretty hard-headed. And so, yeah, I mean, it can be at the first couple of days when this really kicked off, it was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Damn, y'all got my address? But like that was kind of weird.
So the first thing that I want to comment there is that this whole Gamergate thing and our disdain for the way that these journalists and these developers are handling the games is one thing, but I do think if you are giving up somebody's address, whether it's Alyssa, whether it's somebody that might agree with me, I think that's messed up. So whoever these people are, keep on doing it, and both sides are doing it. People that agree with Alyssa are doing it, and people that disagree with her are doing it, just because there are bad actors in all of these things. Now, one thing that I want to stress is that people like Alyssa probably will never ever acknowledge the fact that people that agree with her do these things, but obviously we know that's not true. We've seen it happen multiple times on Twitter. We've seen it happen multiple times with figures on YouTube that are more aligned with her line of thinking. But I just want to stress that no matter what Alyssa says, now how much I might dislike her talking points, doxing is one of the most messed up things you can do, because people live at these addresses that are not Alyssa, that are not me or whoever you might dislike, and you put them in harm's way. So if we could keep it to the games and keep it to debates and disagreements and discussions, that would be great. I don't know why people go as far as to want to dox somebody. That shit is insane. But again, I just want to acknowledge the fact that whilst Alyssa won't acknowledge that people in her camp do this, of course they do, but I would not be stupid enough to sit here and think that people that agree with me wouldn't do the same thing. There are crazy people on both sides of the conversation.
I have the weird thing of, I do a lot of work in the social media space, and it's one of those things of like my phone is always with me. And I'm always trying to not pay attention to it, especially when like we all know in the grand scheme of like when you've thrown a Molotov cocktail into a space, right? We all know, we're not stupid. Like we understand how the internet works, but we also know that like at a certain point, whatever you say is going to inflame people in ways that are super wild and just like out of nowhere that this stuff has happened.
That to me is a deflection. Now, of course, there are going to be people in spaces, whether you are on this side of the conversation or their side of the conversation, that just don't want to listen and they have their mind made up. But most people are willing to have a conversation about this as long as you don't resort to petty insults or trying to put them down like they can't govern their emotions. There are plenty of videos that I've uploaded on this channel where people have disagreed with me, but we've had a conversation either in Discord, through email, or on the YouTube comment section, and the conversations have been pleasant. That's happened many times, and as you can see, I get a lot of comments on my videos, and most of the time the comments are pleasant, whether it's agreeing or disagreeing. Like I said, every now and then you get people that are just off their rocker and they want to say something stupid, or they want to troll for the sake of it. Those things happen, but it's definitely not a case where whatever you say is going to ignite something. That is a cop-out. Maybe better your arguments, maybe change your arguments, maybe try to be someone that listens a bit more to somebody on the opposite side of the aisle, rather than making out like you've done everything you can and people are just wanting to fight. Because more often than not, when you meet people in real life, or when you actually talk to people online properly, you talk to them on a level without insulting them, they are more willing to listen to you. Now, I do find it funny he said that, because I have already seen this interview. I'm just doing the reaction for it now, but I want you to remember that he said that, and then pay attention to how these two behave going forward.
You know, we've lived through, both of us, in different ways, right? Of like what Gamergate 1 was, how it manifested, and how it continued to, you know, if you think about the timeline of the space, how it's continued to be the like river of slime, Ghostbusters 2, that has kind of gone under gaming for a long period of time. But I want to hear your thoughts about, like, has this version felt different? Has it felt especially special in the way? Well, a lot of folks are special, but like, has it felt very special or different in a way in comparison to the first version of it, in the way we're kind of seeing it now?
I think I said this on an interview, I think with CBC. I think it's like a perfect storm that makes it seem a little different. Like, I think the story beats are the same. Like, what they're trying to do is the same. They're harassing women and women of color the most, or queer people. They're dogpiling, which is exactly what used to happen. They're creating sock puppet accounts, which is what happened last time, all of this kind of stuff. What's weirder about it now is obviously the main space that you and I and so many other people who have been in this industry for so long use, Twitter, which was once considered a great space for not only journalism, but activism, which is absolutely huge during 2020 for organizing, protests and stuff like that, has now become, you know, the divorced man's app where, you know, like, reporting shit just goes completely ignored. And you have the guy who literally owns the app being like, oh, yes, I believe in this conspiracy. Like, let me like leave my little weird like spaceship bed that I sleep in, because I'm actually 10 years old mentally, and make sure that I say, yes, this is wrong, I hate this, or wow, when somebody sends me something that's not true. And it's like, what sucks about that is, like, where we used to go to like congregate and talk about this has been, like, you know, overtaken by chuds and sock puppet accounts that are kind of running rampant.
So I'm going to refrain from petty insults like this Alyssa character, and because you find that these people, rather than putting forward a proper argument or something where you can have a proper back and forth, they just resort to insulting people. Now, what happened with Elon Musk's takeover, and I really apologize for taking this off games for a second, but these people can't help themselves. Just to add some clarification, when Elon Musk took over, he advocated for free speech. With free speech, there is the consequence of some people saying some shitty things, or maybe being disingenuous in their talking points, or, you know, doing all kinds of things. Twitter was not a beacon of joy that people would go to, or a safe place for anyone. Twitter has always had the most depraved nonsense on it. It has always been like that. It was like that before Elon Musk took over. It will be like that after someone else takes over. That's just how Twitter is. What was happening before is that more voices on the opposite aisle of this conversation were being censored. That is true. We already know that's true because that has been confirmed multiple times. Now it's a space where everybody is speaking and these people don't like it. And I am a strong advocate for them being able to say whatever they want, and people that are opposed to them being able to say whatever they want. And what they do is, rather than engaging in conversations, they choose to focus on the few that go on there to make comments, whether they're disparaging or not, and ignore the wider conversation. There have been plenty of times when Alyssa types, people from Kotaku, these gaming journalists or these video game developers have been atted with actual questions and just been blocked. There's a lot of times when they themselves say really messed up things that would be considered racist, and then they go and protect their tweets. Now, she can throw around insults saying that it's a divorced man's app and that it's not a place that they can congregate to have conversations, but the reality is that it is a place that everyone can congregate to have conversations and everybody's voices can be heard. If you want to focus on the trolls and make that your talking point and the basis for why these gamers on the opposite side of the conversation are just not worth talking to, then that really shows your level of maturity and what you're trying to do. Now, when she says chud, as far as I am aware, I think it's US slang, and obviously I'm from the UK, but I believe a chud is somebody that is supposed to be like a basement dweller, somebody that is extremely overweight, disgusting to look at, your stereotypical gamer, I guess she is trying to say. You know that episode of South Park where you've got the fat World of Warcraft player that's just sitting in the basement playing all day? I think that's what she's referring to. Now, that's a stereotype attributed to gamers, and I'm not saying that there's not gamers that look like that. There are gamers that look like that on her side of the aisle, on the aisle that opposes her, but to, again, throw around that insult like that's what the people look like that stand against her is kind of ridiculous. I mean, I know especially over in this space where we congregate and we speak, we advocate for gym over here, we advocate for healthy living, and I know some of the people that I've met in person that have interacted with me online, they're very in shape people, and that's what we encourage over here. So she's going to throw around these insults throughout this interview to try and get her point across like it's a bunch of basement dwellers that have never seen sunlight that are coming after her. But actually there's plenty of people with plenty of rational talking points that they would like to put forward to her, but she's not willing to listen to them because I don't actually think she has any real pushback when push comes to shove.
Like the space in which semi-reasonable conversations that would get flagged if they did kind of, move into an improper space or a toxic space, there was a feeling like someone was in charge to be able to kind of smack the hand of the people doing the nefarious stuff. But like, there's a level now where people are lamenting the fact that Elon has this platform to let people run wild and do some stuff. And we'll talk about, and I'll showcase some of the extra stupid that has come up in the past couple of weeks.
I really hope you bring up the fact that there are people on Alyssa's side of the conversation that say incredibly racist things like it's okay to be racist to white people. I hope you bring up the fact that there are people that are denying other people's jobs because they are not a particular ethnicity or skin color. I hope you bring up all those things, but I'm sure you won't because you walk around with eyes wide shut, and of course you're going to lie and be disingenuous to get your point across. I want you guys to pay attention to some of the things that go on in this interview because it kind of gives you an inkling of where these people see things or how they see things and why our video games are in the state that they're in and why these people are not willing to have conversations with people on the opposite side of the conversation.
They're calling me Anita Sarkeesian. They're insinuating that I like suck dick to get my job. And like, so first of all, let's be so very clear. Kotaku has been, since I have been there, run by women.
Right.
So I'm not sucking dick to get my job. If anything, I'd be doing something else, which I do also do, to be clear, but not to get my job. So it's the same thing. Cheers to that.
Cheers
hey,
to
yo.
eating coochie. Anyway.
It's just frustrating because it's the same stuff. It's like, well, especially when people found out I used to be a sex worker, it's like, I tell everybody that you have 2 drinks with me at dinner. And I'm like, when I was a cab girl, like it's not a secret. So I think I don't know. It's just, you can't slut shame me. I am very happily a slutty person. And so I think it's just also really odd to be like slut shaming women in one breath and then also being like jiggle titty physics are the only good games. And it's like, well, which one is it? Oh, it's because you don't want women to have ownership over their sexuality. Got it.
No, actually, Alyssa, that isn't the case. And for the most part, most people are not going to care that you were a sex worker. What people care about is that you are trying to destroy the games that they love. I personally don't care what you do in your personal time. I don't care who you take to bed, how many people you take to bed, how many people you want to walk around and tell people that you take multiple people to bed. I honestly don't care, and I'm also not going to shame you for it. It's none of my business. What people care about is that you want to go into their games and inject your own ideologies into them. The problem here is that you want to take away the creative freedoms of some of these developers, and you want to tell these developers who design the games in the way that they do that they shouldn't be doing it, and that it's wrong for you to design characters like Bayonetta, like Eve, like the old school Tomb Raider, like Trish, like Lady, all of these characters that have existed throughout video game history. People like you say it's wrong to have them appear in this way, and you're lying if you say otherwise, because we all have receipts of how you used to present Bayonetta, how you would talk about Bayonetta. These days, because they're focusing on Eve. They're trying to say that Bayonetta was done in a very creative way and they respect the design of Bayonetta, but that was not the case back in the day. What they were saying was that Bayonetta is disgusting and that she was just designed for horny men. One of the people that helped to design Bayonetta, one of the key people that helped to design Bayonetta was a Japanese woman. So I do find that very funny.
You would think that a group of folks who have felt like they have been oppressed for all of these multiple years that they have talked about there being no good games and all the games that we used to play were great in comparison to what we have now are terrible. You would think that after all of those years of seething and being upset and not having anyone have a voice that connects with you, that you would be able to get your language and messaging in a better position. And it still sounds like people who have not gotten past a third grade reading level trying to make a really interesting and reasonable point. How has it been to kind of work through the dumb? Because like it's not even reasonable stuff to even like poke at, to be like, well, let me try to do the work of finding where the potential, not even middle ground, but like where's the nugget that we're gonna pull from this to really like do some good work. Like, what has it been like to kind of see that not be different in that way?
Now, I want you to pay attention to how this guy spoke. He's talking about having a conversation where you meet in the middle, but he's also saying dealing with the dumb. How do you deal with the dumb? He's saying that these people have not got beyond year 3 reading and writing. How are you supposed to have a conversation with people when they talk to you like this? This is just straight disrespect. A man could not stand before me and speak to me like this and expect to have a civil conversation. You're already plummeting the conversation into the ground. See, what the problem here is that these people go on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. They say inflammatory things, and then when they get flamed, they're like, oh, see, these are chuds, these are basement dwellers, these are trolls that have nothing to say, they don't know how to get their talking point straight, and they're just here to attack people of color or women, which is the most nonsense ever. It's like he said in the beginning. I don't know if I recorded it, but he said in the beginning, I encourage you to go watch it all on his Twitch channel if you think I'm lying. Sometimes you know when you're throwing a Molotov into a crowd, and that's exactly what you're doing here. You are throwing a Molotov. Now, I'm not going to stoop to your childish level. What I will say is that it's not that people don't have their talking points in order. It's that there are a time and place for things. There's a time and place to have certain characters in certain games. We've spoken about this in length before. A character like Eve in Stellar Blade makes sense, but a character like Eve in The Last of Us obviously doesn't. It depends on where you're putting the character. We don't just want ridiculously looking women or characters that are extremely busty or characters like Dante that are super ripped off, or characters like the Tekken characters like Fengwei or Jin or Kazuya where they're ultra hench in a Walking Dead game. There's a time and place for these things. These people try to make out like you just want these types of characters in all games, and nobody is saying that. I mean, I didn't see these guys talking when Tekken was released. Do you see the way the men are built in Tekken? It's over the top, but no one has a problem with it. It's only a problem to these people when it's characters that are female. When it's characters like Eve, it causes an uproar for some reason. It's that they don't have their talking points in order. Another thing is that it's okay if Alyssa is a sex worker. That's up to her, that's her business. As long as she's not hurting anyone, I don't particularly care. We're here to talk about games. But you can walk around with your breasts out if you want, that's up to you. But just don't do it in front of children. I think that's the one thing that people always say. Now, I'm not saying that she's doing that. I'm not accusing her of that. I don't want anyone to take it that way. But that's the one talking point that I always hear from people. People want to do things by the cover of the night, and they want to do things amongst adults. There's no problem whatsoever. But doing those things in front of children is where people usually draw the line. And that is where these kinds of people try to make out like they're saying, put your breasts away, but we want to see digital tits. That's not what's happening here. They're trying to muddy the waters.
I think it's just, you cannot have good faith conversations with people whose basis for why they're angry is already rooted in a bad faith situation.
Right.
And I think you can see this sort of like reflective surface that they look at when they make these arguments with you, because all of the things that they say we're doing are what they do. So, you know,
Yes.
obfuscating the truth, you know, like they're like, you harassed somebody. I'm like, okay, hold on. Reporting on a publicly listed Steam page and the Discord channel and the people who are in it and blurring out their names and not sharing anybody's personal info is not harassing or doxing anybody. I don't know if you know that. Finding my home address on dox websites, that's doxing people.
Yes, that is true. What she's saying, that is doxing people, and if people are doing that to them, then that is a scummy thing to do, and I don't think anybody should support it. Like I said, doxing is one of the worst things you could do to someone on the internet, because any amount of things could happen to them. No matter how much I dislike the way Alyssa puts herself across, the way she talks, at no point will it ever cross my mind to dox her. A, she is still a person, and I don't want her to lose her life or something horrible to happen to her. And B, there are people around her that have nothing to do with the conversations going on online. Now, with that said, what she's referring to there is on Steam there is a page called Sweet Baby Inc. Detected, and on this page they list loads of games that Sweet Baby Inc. is involved in. The people on Alyssa's camp wanted to flag this page and have it taken down for reasons that make no sense. We should be allowed to know when Sweet Baby Inc. are working on a game, and if we don't want to buy it. I actually think it's a very, very good tool to have so that I can vote with my wallet. Something I always say on this channel, you should always vote with your wallet, and having that information is incredibly important, because I don't want to support a single game that Sweet Baby Inc. has any involvement in. I don't care if it's my favorite franchise. If they get their grubby paws on Yakuza, God forbid, I mean, I'll cry into my pillow if they did, but I won't support it. I don't want to give my money to Sweet Baby Inc. because of the sea of nonsense that they have left across multiple video games. It's very easy to see when they have involvement in it. It's very easy to see when these consulting agencies have some sort of involvement in this game. So having that information, regardless of what Alyssa thinks, should be a right of ours. We should know when certain people are working on a game. For example, Alyssa's name will come up in the credits if she worked on a game. I think she just works at Kotaku, but for example, it would list her as somebody that worked on the game. We should be able to know, because some people might feel very strongly about her. It's their hard-earned money. If they don't want to support the game, if Sweet Baby Inc. or her are involved, then that's their right. I don't get what the problem is with that. I don't see the logic in them trying to shut the page down, other than the fact that they know that loads of people are against them. Loads more than you might think.
I had a dream the other night, and I thought about, what does this feel like? And there was a clip from a movie, and I'm going to play it super fast. It's like only like 2 or 3 seconds, but I want to play it for you. And this is exactly how I feel like, if you air quote the passion of the Gamergater, this is what it feels like to me.
I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is.
It feels like that. That's what it feels like. That's exactly what it feels like in the grand scheme of where we are.
So, you know, I don't mind a bit of banter. I don't mind a friendly and jokey back and forth. The problem here is that whilst I might have found that funny, it's these kinds of people, if you do it to them, they curl up into a ball. They say they're being harassed. There's always some sort of mention of a death threat, even though you never really see receipts from these people. And so, again, he wants to have honest and good faith conversations whilst continuously insulting, continuously just making random attacks on people that don't agree with him. He said that they tried to connect the dots in this interview. They tried to draw the red line to every single thing. But sometimes there are very clear reasons for why people do things. He just doesn't want to explore why people are mentioning these things. And the thing is that it's not 1 or 2 people. There's an overwhelming number of people that believe that people such as these are up to no good with their games. So much so, the Sweet Baby Inc. Detected page on Steam is now at 366,460 people. That is no small number of people that are incredibly annoyed with these types of characters. I mean, one of the things that we can see very clearly with these kinds of games are self-insertions. You can see it with Spider-Man, you can see it with Mortal Kombat. There's a number of games where they self-insert. You can clearly see when ideologies are put into games at random. They have no bearing in there. There's no point in them being there. You can see when there's forced diversity. I mean, I am a black man, but I'm okay with playing a God of War game without seeing a black person. You don't have to force a black person into that story. The God of War games in most recent times are about the Vikings, and the Vikings are known to be white people. The gods in Viking lore are known to be white. So it's okay to not have a black person in there. And so when you see a black person there, you raise your eyebrow. And again, that's not because I hate the color of my own skin. It's just because it doesn't really make any sense. Now, if I was playing a game, again, like The Walking Dead, and I went through the entire game and I never saw a black person, then I might be more willing to listen to the conversation. Again, I probably won't make too many qualms about it. Just like if I never saw a white person in a Black Panther game, I don't think I'd make many qualms about that. I think there's times and places for certain things, and I think sometimes sometimes you can tell when something is being forced and when something is unnecessary. These people like to laugh and joke, like there isn't honest conversations that you can have about this, and there's things you can ask them and try to query. I would be very much up for having a conversation with somebody like Khalif. I don't think Alyssa would be very good at having conversations like this, because as you'll see throughout these interviews, or throughout this interview in particular, she is more interested in just insulting people. And whilst he's doing that at the same time, I think it would be easier to talk to him just based on the interviews that I've seen him conduct before. Although that isn't really saying much, the bar is not particularly high with these people.
And for a lot of people who have media literacy and reading comprehension skills, and know the history surrounding this and the culture surrounding this, it did speak for itself, you know. And for people who, you know, believe that chemtrails are teaching us to get vaccinated, and, you know, like, then I can't help you, you know, like whatever I wrote, it wouldn't have done a damn thing for you. So, you know, God be with you.
Godspeed to all the Gumps out there doing what they need to do.
So there again, she's tried to lump in these people that disagree with her as conspiracy theorists that believe in chemtrails and that the earth is flat and whatever. These things have nothing to do with the conversation. What she's doing here, what this guy is doing here, is they're trying to derail the conversation. They're trying to say that anybody that is opposed to them are stupid. That's what they're doing here. Otherwise, why would you be bringing that stuff up? I could bring up so many things that are conventional talking points against people like her, but all it does is derail the conversation. There is actually an interesting conversation to be had here, or at least I think there is, but there's also a part of me that thinks that they don't even know what they're going on about, and so they result to having stupid conversations like this where they are painting everybody that stands against them with a broad brush, and it's very, very easy to read them. Again, they try to make out like we're all stupid, that we don't have a reading comprehension age beyond the age of 5, when in actuality, I guarantee you, if an Alyssa type or a Khalif type sat down with somebody that is willing to have a conversation with them without throwing petty insults around, because again, you just take one look at Khalif, if you take one look at Alyssa, it's not hard to start throwing insults, but it derails the conversation. We're trying to understand the ideas and why people make the games the way they do, and maybe they would want to understand why people are so against it. It's hard to have conversations with people when they're just being insulting.
What is this space supposed to be doing? I'm a person who's all about action. I'm like, fine. You have had since, what was it? It was 10 years ago since Gamergate 1 at this point, for the most part. You've had 10 years to do all the things that you said you wanted to do to fix the space, to remove wokeness out of games, remove progressive thought out of games. You haven't made a game. You haven't made a studio. You haven't made outlet that's really been of note that people give a shit about. And all of these things that you could have done in the meantime to bolster your idea around what conservative, non-woke gaming has been, y'all have been sitting there not learning how to code like you tell everybody else when they lose their job.
That is one of the stupidest things you could have said. Why does the consumer need to be a coder, needs to be somebody that makes a publication, needs to be somebody that runs a gaming company? We're consumers. At the end of the day, you and Alyssa can say whatever you want. You can try to make out like it's conservatives that are saying this, even though if you read your comment section, there's far more people than just conservatives saying these things to you. I'd encourage you to do so. You can make out like you should go and do these things just because you're complaining, but as far as I'm aware, we purchase these things from these people, and if we don't like them, we voice it. That's how it has always worked. Tesco or Asda or WH Smith or Morrison's does not go and tell the consumer if they have a complaint about a cupcake, go and make your own cupcake. They listen to the consumer's complaint and they will adjust things accordingly if there are enough people saying it. Clearly you don't know how business works. With video games, there are review websites, there are places where myself, you, whoever can go on there to review it, and it just so happens that a lot of these games these days that have these sweet baby ink touch to them are getting review bombed. People are speaking up, people are voting with their wallets. They don't need to go and make a game to be valid. They don't need to go and open up a place like Kotaku to be valid. They don't need to know coding to be valid. They're consumers, just like you. And I'm sure there's plenty of games, maybe Stellar Blade is one of them, that you don't like and you're not going to support. And that's you voting with your wallet. If you go and write an article about Stellar Blade, yes, we can critique it, but you still have the right to write it. See, I don't think you understand what a consumer is. That was honestly one of the most stupid things you could say.
This kind of idea that, like, you can just sort of act like, well, everyone should have everything. We shouldn't just give Black people, like, better support. And, like, affirmative action is, like, bullshit. And it's like, you're not actually doing the work in your head here, because if there are not only did separate but equal exist in people's like memory, in the cultural memory of people who are still alive, but then you have rampant policing that is focused entirely on people of color. You have rampant incarceration that is focused entirely on people of color. You have rampant killings by police of people of color, all happening in recent memory.
Mhm.
And this idea that like Black folks or people of color or queer folks who are still regularly being persecuted should not have any sort of support in trying to gain a foothold in a space that is openly hostile to them in every corner, and you're proving how hostile you are to them in the way that you act online, is asinine to me. You are just scared that your whiteness does not implicitly put you at the top.
It's really not a hostile space. As a matter of fact, most of my gaming friends, well, historically at the very least, have been black. When I was growing up, most of the people that I played games with were black, and this is not something that I heard come out of any of their mouths. We were all on the Call of Duty forums. We were all in the Call of Duty lobbies. You know, we were in the early days of Mortal Kombat. We heard people saying crazy shit, but they said crazy shit about everyone. I remember a time where this girl wants to play, and I said to her, yeah, jump on, no problem. On these lobbies, the guys would roast each other. It was just constant roasting. It was non-stop. They're saying all sorts of obscene things that if you say now, you'll most definitely get cancelled. It was whatever, and there were people from all walks of life, white, black, Asian, you name it, they were in there. And so I told her, you're going to be treated just like the guys. And she said, yeah, I want to. And it was very evident that when she entered the lobby, she did not want to. Now, I'm not saying that's true for all girls. I've played with girls before that have a very good sense of humor, or at least a sense of humor that gels with the people that I was playing games with at the time. But to say that we are being attacked, that's just not true. That is simply not true. I'm sure there are women, and I'm sure there's particular types of people that have been attacked online, and it's not been particularly friendly, been very hostile. Obviously, we know doxing is a thing, but widespread, I think most gaming spaces are very welcoming. I've been going to fighting game tournaments for a very long time, and I've been going to other tournaments for other games like Counter-Strike and Call of Duty and FIFA, and almost 9 times out of 10, I would say my interactions have been pleasant. The one time I can really say I didn't have a pleasant interaction was nothing to do with race, nothing to do with the way I look, nothing to do with the gender of the person I had an issue with. It was just that we butted heads personality wise. Problem with these people is that they boil everything down to race, everything down to what is between your legs, and that is how they try to scapegoat conversations. There's no situation where black people, trans people, gay people, or women are being rushed down at gaming events. This is all victim nonsense. People say snide things all the time to all kinds of people, even white males, straight white males. This happens to them as well. This is just victim mentality 101, and again, it's a way to skirt the conversation and make out like they are the victims, and people that potentially on my side of the conversation are the bad people and they need to be stopped, or that they are bad actors.
I get it. Like, if I was mediocre and I wasn't getting shit for free, I'd be pissed off too. But at the end of the day, we can't act like these things aren't put in place to try and rectify decades upon centuries of fucked up shit that has been done that has put people of color and queer people in a position where they are not starting on level ground at all, and they haven't. And you can't erase that just by going, I don't see color, or I don't think that these spaces should exist because imagine if there was white guy gamers. White guy gamers is the games industry. Like, it's still the games industry. I mean, look at what we were talking about last year, right? When like IGN, and I like them, but like when they did an entire panel for Summer Games Fest and it was 3 white dudes. Yeah. Like, it's still the default. The main character being white is still the majority default. Like, I don't think the things that you're saying are happening. You're just picking little instances and acting like this is the norm now, when it's not even remotely close to the norm.
People like Alyssa really piss me off. She says things that it's just not true. I, as a black person, do not need people like Alyssa to coddle me. We don't need that. We are not babies. We are not these broken down, subservient versions of a human being. We are not somebody that needs to be wrapped in a warm blanket and be guided across the street. We don't need you to do those things for us, Alyssa. It's very, very insulting. We can stand on our own 2 feet. Things that happened to us long before any of us were born. You are sitting there with a black man. A black man is talking to you and disagreeing with you. That should give you some indication that we have come a long way from that time. Now, I'm not saying that there are not places and spaces that need special attention, but it's not the gaming space. I hate to break it to you. It's really not the gaming space. Most black gamers that you will come across will not agree with your line of thinking. I have absolutely no doubt out that you have galvanized a group of people and tricked them into thinking that they are victims. But if they just stepped out of their bubble and tried to listen to another perspective and not look through everything that comes with the victim lens, then they will see that what you're saying is a load of cowabunga. It's just nonsense. It's very, very insulting. I want you to know that if you ever do hear this, as a black person and multiple other black people I've spoken to, as a matter of fact, if I ever have the privilege of meeting you, I would love to show you one of my group chats, which has about 40 people in it. 90% of the group chat is black, and almost everybody, as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure everybody disagrees with your talking points. These are people that have come over from African nations, right? They're not even born over here in the UK or in the US, and these are people in the US, and these are people in the UK, so from different walks of life, and none of them agree with that, and all of them find it insulting. I'd actually like to hear what you have to say to black people that find what you're doing insulting. You're literally telling me I'm a baby, I can't stand on my own 2 feet, I need this special protected space so I can get to even ground with the straight white male. How can you not see that's insulting? And just before you say something like, oh, he must have been born into privilege, he must be from a very wealthy or rich area, that couldn't be further from the truth. I was not born into a privileged or wealthy family, nowhere near, and I worked for every opportunity that I've got. I did not rely on some DEI nonsense. I did not rely on some scheme to get me into a company because of the color of my skin. I worked hard like all the other people around me, white, black, Asian, it didn't matter. So before anyone says, oh, he's from a privileged background, that's why he's saying this, I couldn't have been from more of the opposite. It's just my mom never raised me to be a victim.
So I think what's frustrating about this is, yeah, you can't really be having these actual like granular conversations with a lot of these people, because these are the same people who think like, oh, one time a black person was mean to me once and that was racism. And it's like, bestie, that's not what that is. And that's also why, you know, it's been so crazy, because I dared to say that you can't be racist against white people. Right. And then it got community noted by a bunch of people who like can't read or refuse to read or failed social studies. And it's like, you actually can't, because it's about positions of power. And at the end of the day, just because someone of color might have been mean to you once, that doesn't mean that they have a significant position of power above you to maybe not give you a job or shut you out of an industry entirely. Like, it's just, that does not exist. And it has not ever existed.
That is simply not true, Alyssa. If you go to Africa, let's say you go to Nigeria, and the Nigerian men and women see you and they see that you're white, and they start picking on you because you're white, because you are white, okay? Forget you're a woman, forget all of that. If they pick on you because you're white, that is racism, because they are singling you out based on your race. If I walk down the road and a white group of boys start throwing stones at me for the pure reason that I am black, that is racism. If you're saying it's from a position of power, then what about people that are on the same level as me, or what about people that are even lower level than me? Let's say that I bump into a bunch of hood rats, right? A bunch of thugs, a bunch of criminals on the road, and they happen to be white, and they target me because I'm black. Is that not racism? Because you're talking about a position of power. These people hold no power. Simply being white does not give you power over people. I know plenty of black people that are much more powerful than white people. So that talking point really makes no sense. Of course you can be racist to white people. That is an absolutely absurd thing to say. It's insane that an adult would utter those words. I've heard this before. Alyssa's not the first person that said this, and every time I hear it, I'm always like, wow, people like this actually exist. Like, they are in La La Land. I'm trying my best to not be insulting here, but it's such a dumb thing to say. To tell a white person that you will never experience racism, no matter what you go through in your life, no matter what part of the world you're in, you'll never know what it feels like because you were born with white skin, so you are inherently more powerful than the people around you. That is so dumb. If a black person goes for a job and they deny the black person a job because they are black, let's say it's a gaming job, right? We're trying to keep this in gaming, but these guys like to make it about everything else, then that would be racist, correct? If a white person went for a job and a black person denied them because they are white, that would be racist. It's not two different camps. I don't know what planet you're living on. I don't know who you're trying to ride for here, but you look silly, you sound silly. These talking points also incentivize people of color to be racist to white people. You need to understand that if you're telling a group of people that it is impossible for you to be racist towards them, then you are telling them that no matter what you say will not be perceived that way, and so there will be no consequences, which we know in reality is not the case, which is a terrible message to put out there, considering people take pieces of information in all sorts of messed up ways on the internet. You are telling people of color that they cannot be racist to another group of people because their skin color is white, and historically they may have sat at the very top of society. And let us not forget, and I'm so sorry that we have to keep on taking things there because these people derail every conversation. I know this is a gaming channel, but they never acknowledge the fact that the people that sit at the top of the society, whether they be white or any other race, they are less than 1% of the population. Everyday people like myself or you watching this video who may be white do not fall into that camp. This is terrible, terrible things to tell people.
We saw the stuff that wound up going on with Black Girl Gamers over the past couple of weeks. There's been a lot of stuff in that conversation where, again, if you haven't caught up with it, BGG has been an outlet for a long period of time that has cultivated and surrounded themselves and said, hey, if you're a black woman in video games, because we know that you are not taken care of in so many different ways. We know that there's a disproportionate level of harassment that happens to black women in the video game space for just showing your fucking face on a camera, plus all the layers of blackness that go along with that and all the layers of discrimination that goes along with that. Come here. We will do the work of trying to give you not only a place to grow and collaborate with other folks, but we're also going to give you a space where you can just feel safe to be able to talk to whoever you want to talk to who's in that space. And now we've seen those folks on the other side. Now that you now have this space, this nefarious space that is the darkest corner of blackness and black women, being able to talk to each other and be able to commiserate and hang out. It is the most racist place on the planet. But I came across, because I do my research here at Spawn on Me, and sometimes you go back and you look at some tweets that people have shared. And not only that, if you're talking about the ability to be in a space with like-minded people who understand where they kind of want to be, and again, blackness is a spectrum. I talked about this on my Twitter feed the other day. But I came across this tweet, and it really did kind of sum up the reason why someone might not want you in this space if you are in a place that's looking to have progressive thought. And it was this one. Hey, so what happens when you're like, video games are a space that we want to see grow in all these different ways, but you also say, because of my alternative version of blackness, this is the thing that makes me not want to be a part of this and the reason why they kicked me out. But you said, because I want DEI to die. So if we going to keep the receipts and we going to talk about how being a supportive black person, being the right kind of black is the thing that got you kicked out of this space, let's keep it 100. No one cares about what version of black you are. The version of black that you are is just shitty. That's the version.
So Black Girl Gamers kicked this girl out because she said something that we're all saying. Black men, black women, white men, white women, who are people with common sense. Doesn't matter the skin color. And he said that it doesn't matter what version of black you are, but the version of black you are is shitty. What he's basically saying is that the skin color doesn't really matter here. I'm quite light skinned, obviously, because I'm mixed race, I'm half black. He's darker than me, he looks like he's full black. But I suppose because of my skin color, because of my appearance, because of my hair, I would be accepted into that space. But the minute I open my mouth and give a diverse thought, because diverse thoughts are what actually matter in these spaces, that's when I'd be branded the wrong kind of black. And so these people are not really interested in having diverse voices. They just want to coddle you and make you feel like a victim. The idea that there is a black girl gamer group is really, really weird to me. If there was a black guy gamer group, I wouldn't join it. It's so bizarre that people want to segregate themselves and make out like the world is so harsh to them and life has been tougher for them, and we don't live in those times anymore. You guys are just full of it. You are riding the coattails of people that actually suffered. That is what's happening here. Nobody's holding you back. The industry is wide open. People with all kinds of voices can make a stamp and they can get their voices out there. Now, of course, you'll say someone like me is not the right kind of black because I don't agree with you, which I think is kind of a weird thing to say. I don't think it falls under racist, but it definitely is delusional. We don't all have to agree, but to say she's not the right kind of black and the kind of black that she is shitty is just absolutely just, you gotta be up yourself on some level. Like, I am the correct train of thought. I am the correct kind of black person. I'm the correct advocate. I'm the correct supporter. I'm the correct ally. It's all these stupid buzzwords. They are so up themselves. Not a coherent thought between them. DEI is not good for us. It is forced. We do not need forced diversity, equity, and inclusion. We need it to be authentic. One way it could have been authentic is that if you had a black person in there that wasn't particularly interested in telling stories where you force that stuff in, but telling organic, authentic stories where nobody's going to have a problem with it, again, I would like to cite the Walking Dead games. I think there was a fantastic idea behind those games, and it just happened to be a black male lead at the helm. Never felt like DEI to me. I mean, the lead character is black in season 1, and the sub character, or the co-character, or I guess you'd say like the character second in line, is a young black female. Nobody better than I. Everybody connected to them. I connected to them. But you guys make this about something that it's not. You don't care about supporting black voices. You care about supporting voices that align with yours. Now, like I said, and you can see in my comment sections, I don't delete anything. I don't restrict anything. I'm not a wet blanket that has to protect their Twitter. That is really, really weird to me. And there are people that disagree with me, and there'll probably be people that disagree with me in this video. You guys shut down conversations and you kick people out that don't agree with you. And it's quite pathetic, if I'm being honest with you. You're supposed to be the inclusive, the welcoming types, the ones that want to amplify as many voices as possible, but you're not interested in that. You're not interested in freedom of speech. You're not interested in a black woman expressing herself differently from you. You just want people around you that are going to agree with you. That's all it is.
Listen, the moment that the receipts were there, they were, and the grift is apparent. Okay, there's they've got something coming out, I don't know, that they're trying to promote, and it's like, it's the same 5 people who bring these kinds of people on a podcast. It's the same 5 people who put them on a podium. It's the same 5 people who come to their, to their aid and their support. So it's like, what? A guy who has a baseball cap permanently glued to his head, a man who never shows his face but has a cartoon Avi, a girl who hasn't brushed her hair since Jesus came back and who loves him more than anything in the world, who does nothing but say slurs online and eat fucking butter.
Happy Easter.
And these are your soldiers? Yeah. Like, these are your soldiers? Like, these are who you're, like, check your sodium levels, baby. Like, didn't you go to the hospital because you didn't drink water? Like, I can't believe that we're like, this is who we should be listening to, and this is who is right about gaming, and this is who, like, do you guys even, like, wipe your ass? Like, or are you wiping the wrong way? Because, like, I don't trust that you could, like, operate a motor vehicle, let alone, like, I don't know, have anything of any value to say about anything. So it's like,
damn, that was good. I want somebody to clip that.
This guy just laughs at everything she says. There's comments I could make about that, but you guys probably already know. You probably already know where I'm going with this. But again, you see that, again, it's just insult after insult. It's just insulting your opposition. There's nothing of substance that came out of their mouths at all. Nothing to really push back on. Again, I don't think these people would do very well in a debate space. I think it'd be very, very easy to pick them apart just based on the things they've said. I mean, this Khalif guy said, why don't you go make your own game? Now, you can go and make your own game, or you can be a consumer that votes with their wallet. The fact that he said that already gives you an idea of where this guy's mind is at.
Well, why don't you make your own shit? Why are you all in the space? Why are you all... Again, we've not seen... And again, we've had this conversation over a decade, right? Of like, where are the conservative games, right? Where are the games coming out of conservatives? And if the place, if the marketplace is driving sales, promotions, PR, all of that stuff, you would think that the free market would avail you some space to make some of these games and put it out in the market so you can sell it. Have we seen any? The only one that we've seen even close to that, and I wouldn't even call it a right-wing game or a conservative game, was 6 Days in Fallujah, right? And for me, that wasn't even a right-wing game, but that was a game that felt like, for people who were from those places and those were the targets on their literal backs, they had a thing to say about that and leveled that conversation up. But the thing about that conversation was smart.
This guy is honestly something special. Conservative games, what are you going on about, mate? We don't want liberal or conservative games. We just want you to tell us a good story. You kind of exposed yourself there, saying, oh, where are all the conservative games? Are you saying that these games are left-leaning then? This is what I don't understand, and I assume that people that are left-leaning are also sick of this bullshit as well. They just want their games to be free of real-world politics. One thing I've seen a lot of the time is people will will say games are inherently political, they have political themes in them. No one's saying you can't have a political structure in a video game. Final Fantasy has had political structures, many other games have had them. It's not an issue with having an in-game political structure. The problem comes when you inject your own views into it to the point where you're actually just trying to push a message on people that is very, very easy for everyone to pick apart. For example, when people are asking for specific flags to be represented in a game where one flag represents all, it's like you're trying to push something on other people when it's unnecessary. You don't need to inject your politics into everything. You saying where are all the conservative games makes me feel like, well, are you saying that the games that you are for are left-leaning games and so conservatives should just not bother playing them because they're going to get upset? Doesn't really make any sense, mate. Like, for example, I wouldn't say Tekken is a left-leaning or conservative game. I wouldn't say Helldivers is a left-leaning or conservative game. I wouldn't say Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, Shadow of the Colossus. People don't think about these things when they're playing games, and this is the problem. You guys have lost touch with reality. We don't want these things in our games, period. I don't want a conservative game. I don't want a liberal game. I want you to tell me a good story. I don't look at Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or Spider-Man and think that's liberal, that's conservative. I just look at them for what they are. The fact that you people see them that way is what the problem is. The fact that you people think that the only people that like Stellar Blade or Bayonetta or Devil May Cry or whatever it might be are just going to be conservative people because they have women in them, they have big titties or whatever. It's just like, it's brain rot, honestly. Thank you for exposing yourself in that particular talking point.
One of the things that I drive at any company that I've been with in game dev has been, especially if I'm working in community, has been, I wish that there was a way to re-educate the player, to be able to show people how games are made. Like, yes, you get that often in vid docs. You see the behind the scenes stuff once in a while and all those things. But the idea that all of these games are bad, and again, most of these games aren't terrible. It is
aren't even bad. Yeah,
they're not even bad. Like, they've complained about some of the best-selling games that have come out in the past couple of years as also being a thing because this perceived notion of whiteness not being centered.
All right, this goes on for another like 40 minutes and I've had enough of these stupid talking points. If you guys want to go and watch it, it's over on his Twitch page in its entirety. If you think I've taken anything out of context, because I did clip a lot of things here, please go and watch it. It's episode 511. It's even worse than what I've shown you here. If anything, removing some of the information and some of the clips from it have done them favors. At the end of the day, Khalif, if I'm saying your name correctly, is that the consumer will vote with their wallet. You can say these games are not even bad and that you want to re-educate gamers. You don't need to re-educate gamers. I know who you think you are. Just because you worked in the industry doesn't mean that you can tell us what we like and what we don't like. 10 people can work on the game or 1,000 people can work on the game. We will tell you if we don't like the game, and the game will fail or the game will succeed. Sometimes these games succeed and sometimes they fail. Get over it. That's how it works. We're the consumer. You don't make us happy, we let you know about it. Okay, so you can stop talking like from this high and mighty place just because you worked in the industry. You might know things that go into actual development that we don't know, but at the end of the day, bakers know things that go into cupcakes. People that work in finance understand things about money that I don't understand. People that work in all sorts of industries will do things that I don't get. I will purchase a product from them or I'll go to them for information. If they get it wrong or they sell me something I don't like, I can let them know about it. You produce games, sometimes your games suck and we let you know. You don't need to re-educate us, and you can have your own opinions on these games. You can think that they're not bad, you're within your right to believe that. But if I tell you they're bad and I tell you that by not giving you my money and you decide to double down, well then you'll watch your business go up in flames. So there's not much more of this that I can stomach. It does go on for another 40 minutes. I've clipped the most relevant parts up to this point. Alyssa continues to throw ad hominem attacks. Alyssa continues to basically not have any real pushback, no actual talking points regarding the opposition. This guy just laughs at her jokes continuously. It's a bit of an insufferable watch, so I don't blame you if you don't go and watch the whole thing. Although, like I said, if you think I'm taking them out of context, please go and watch it for yourself. I could have sat here for about 2 hours and just insulted these two with the things that's coming out of their mouth, and especially with the way this guy is behaving and with the things that he said about other people. I don't know if he's in a position to be talking like that. Either way, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like I said earlier in this video, I apologize. It's not really something that I usually put on the channel, but we have been talking about this whole DEI stuff and Sweet Baby Inc. and these people that pretend to be on the side of the people, but really they're in it for themselves. They're not tuned in to what the audience wants, and like I said, the audience will speak with their wallets. I'll catch you guys very soon. Take care and peace.